What's going on? My name is Matt Parker, and today it's my absolute pleasure to be showing you one of my personal basses, this 1994 Silver Series made in Japan Squier precision bass. And I'm going to be telling you why you need to buy one of these basses before prices start to skyrocket. But before we get on with today's video, please remember to like and subscribe. It really helps me grow this YouTube channel and means I can keep showing you cool stuff like this. Now, officially launched in 1982, Fender and Squier Japan were initially a market reaction to some of the really high quality Japanese basses coming out of Japan at that time period. So we're thinking about things like Tokais, Grecos, Fernandez, things like that, really good quality Fender copies that were affordable and were kind of knocking the socks off the US Fenders during this time period. Fender realized that the quality of these basses was eating into their market share. Now, during this period, Fender were also in the process of closing the historic Fullerton plant, and so they needed stopgap manufacturing whilst they set up the Corona facility. Now, the historic Fujigen factory was already making a ton of historic models during this period for brands such as ESP and Greco, and subsequently Fender took their manufacturing to these absolute giants, knowing they were going to get super high quality reproductions of Fenders. However, Fender could see that these affordable yet really high quality instruments were taking players away from the Fender brand and wanted to offer an entry-level brand which could compete with this market. In the 60s, Fender had acquired the Squier brand, which in the early 1900s had been making violins, but by the 60s was a really high quality string manufacturer, which no longer made instruments. In 1982, Fender released the Squier JV line. Now, this was an incredibly high quality, faithful 50s and 60s reissue line, which today commands premiums way exceeding what you'd expect them to have gone for. At the time of recording this, it's actually not unusual to be seeing Squier JVs from the early 80s going as high as £2,000. They featured a ton of vintage correct specs and the quality was just really, really incredible. I've had the good fortune of playing a couple of JV Squiers now, and honestly, the quality is so high. They really capture kind of the essence of that pre-CBS golden era of bass, and rightly so, the prices are starting to reflect that. Now, after the success of the JV range, Fender tried to take manufacturing to South Korea. However, the Korean Squiers featured far inferior specs, including plywood bodies. After 1 year of production, Fender listened to the market and returned to Japan for the Squier line. This is where we see the Silver Series. Fender initially made a couple of different Silver Series models. So for basses, they made a P bass and a J bass. And for guitars, they made a signature Hank Marvin Strat, a Wayne's World Strat, and a couple of other models, but we're not going to get down the guitar route today. So starting at the body, we can see that it looks very much like a P bass, as we'd come to expect, and it features a very lightweight basswood body, which honestly, I've been gigging this recently and it sits so well on a Strat. It's incredibly light, super contoured, super comfy, resonates surprisingly well as well, even with flat wounds, and honestly, it's actually one of the comfiest P basses I've ever played. Taking a look at the electronics, it's very simple and everything we'd come to expect from a P bass. So it's a simple master volume and master tone mated to that iconic split pickup we know and love. Interestingly, with the Silver Series, they also include the brass shielded pickup bass plates, which is something you'd actually see from kind of pre-CBS Fenders. So it's really unusual and super cool that they included that with these builds. And then taking a look at the bridge, is everything we'd come to expect with a pressed steel base plate. Unlike super vintage spec P basses, this is actually the kind of later 70s barrel saddles, and rather than using the flathead screws, these actually use Allen key bolts, which is kind of what we'd expect from Squiers and anything really in Japan, as they tend to use Allen keys and metric unit measurements. Now you can see this is a really nice vintage white. Originally it would have been a bit whiter, but it started to yellow. And then you can see this one has got a taut guard with a 60s style tug bar. Full disclosure, this is an aftermarket pickguard that I put on. It came with a white one, which I didn't really like, so I've thrown this on. I think it looks much better. So taking a look at the headstock, we see we've got a classic Fender style headstock with the Squier logo by Fender, and then we've got the serial number and made in Japan on the headstock. One of the easy ways to look for Silver Series is that it actually says it in the top corner. Some of them didn't come with this. I believe some of the later ones, kind of as they were starting to phase the line out, but it's a really easy tell if you are looking for a Silver Series. There's also a lot of information on how to date the serial numbers on these. They kind of tend to straddle model years, so you're going to have something like a 93 or a 94, or a 90 or a 91, or a 92 or a 93. This is a 93/94, and yeah, it's everything we'd expect from a silver series of this era. Like lots of Squiers and lots of Japanese-made instruments, it features a headstock truss rod adjustment, and it's a simple one-way truss rod. Now we're getting to the fun stuff, and this is one of the reasons that I think the Silver Series is probably one of the best Squiers you can buy on the market. Interestingly, with the P bass and the jazz bass, they both feature a 40mm nut width. So for the jazz basses, it's very slightly wider, and for the P basses, it's a bit narrower, so it's kind of like a really Goldilocks neck profile. If you remember the review on the Candy Apple Red P bass that I did, it's got the B nut width, and I think it's one of the best P bass nut widths you can get. It certainly speeds up the playing experience for a P bass and is really, really comfortable. One of the things that I love about this neck is it's got the vintage correct 7.25-inch radius. So it's got quite a curved fingerboard, but a fairly shallow neck. Super duper comfy. I absolutely love this. It's my favorite spec of a neck, to be honest. Certainly for P basses. I love that B nut width. I love that 7.25, and it feels very, very much like a kind of 70s B nut width P bass neck, which you'd also find on the Fender Nate Mendel signatures. Taking a look at the neck further, you can see it's got a slab rosewood board. Again, vintage, correct for these kind of like mid-60s P-bass style necks. And just a really nice feature, nice to have that kind of included on a neck of an instrument of this vintage and this initial price point. Taking a look at the back of the neck, we see we've got these open style machine heads. This particular style is something we see a lot coming from Japan during this era. I find they're fine. They're not amazing. There's nothing bad about them. I'm not immediately looking to upgrade them, but they're kind of hard to find replacement sizes for. So in the future, it might be a case of you have to drill some extra holes or something similar. Now, because of the nut width and because of that radius, I just had to put flat wounds on this. So today I'm playing this with a set of TI jazz flats. These are my favorite flats. I've got these on my jazz bass as well, and I just really like the tension. They're quite low tension for a flat, but they sound great. They play great. They allow you to get really low action, and I think they just really kind of enhance that vintage vibe some of us are looking for from recording instruments. So I know why you're all here. Let's get down to some tones. So there we have it, the Silver Series P bass. Now in recent years, the prices of JV Squiers have blown through the roof, and I've rapidly been seeing these increase in value as well as JVs start to become unobtainable for most people. You're still getting the same factory making the same quality instruments, but it's a really good time to be jumping on board with these. When I first started looking at Silver Series Squiers, you used to be able to pick them up for kind of like £250. I'm rapidly seeing these shoot past the £450 mark. In fact, taking a look on eBay, there's some going for between £500 and £600. You can, however, still pick up a bargain. I got this one incredibly reasonably priced, and I absolutely love it. And honestly, for the price of a classic vibe Squier, you're getting a far superior quality instrument made in Japan during the golden era of Fender and Squiers Japanese manufacturing, and I highly recommend getting a few of these, even maybe as an investment piece before they start to become a bit too pricey. The combination of that Goldilocks neck, where it's a super comfortable vintage radius, but with a more manageable P-bass nut width, makes this an all-day comfortable playing P-bass. Honestly, it's rapidly becoming one of my favorite basses on the rack. It's actually so comfy on a gig. I'm actually thinking about selling my 72 jazz bass because I'm actually gravitating towards this or my 64 Gibson at the moment. Anyway, there we have it, the Silver Series Squiers. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember to like and subscribe. It really helps me grow this channel. It means I can keep showing you super cool basses like this one. If you want to see more of what I'm up to in between YouTube vids, you can follow me on Instagram or TikTok at Matt Parker Bass. Until next time, I'll see you soon.